I have a video from a few years ago where I make an origami spider that I designed when I was 18. And this video was my ice bucket challenge video, response to that stupidity. It takes about 40 minutes or so to make this. So I did that while I was in a bath of cold water with ice. By the end of it, I was hypothermic. And I still had people who were like, "Well, you pussy." Like, really? Okay. Okay. So, I don't know, I thought it might be interesting to, because it's my design, nobody else really knows how to make this exact spider. So, I thought it'd be interesting to maybe make a video of me making it. At this point, the design is like 20 years old. Yeah, it was summer of 2001. Yeah, so it's a little bit over 20 years old, and there's been a couple times where I sort of tried to show other people how to make it, but yeah, never with any success. Just use this from a previous video about the suffix s. So this is just a regular sheet of printer paper, nothing special, and I'm going to turn it into a 1x2 rectangle. Try to keep it mostly on screen here. The camera's not very high off the table, so it's kind of hard to get. Let me see. Let me bring it a little bit more this way. It's kind of hard to get it so we can see very much, but see this way, something like that. That might be a better angle. So right now I'm just gonna get rid of this excess. Use a little bit more of a precision version of the licking the folded paper sort of trick. Just, kind of lick my fingers and then run it along that edge, and that will weaken the joint very nicely, and you can clean that up. I'm experiencing this weird thing, this weird visual thing. The extreme right periphery of my field of view in both eyes. I kind of wonder if I'm experiencing a stroke right now. Oh well, such is life. It started in the middle of my field of view, and it just suddenly happened, and then it migrated across my field of view, and it's this weird, jittery sort of thing that I'm not sure what in the hell's going on. but to the point where I can actually see what I'm looking straight at now. It's kind of wandered off to the side in both eyes, and it was exactly the same pattern in both eyes, even as it changed. So I kind of feel like that's something wrong with my brain and not my eyeballs. You know, if you look at something really bright, that's kind of the effect that it had. Like you look at something really bright and you have that strong after image that makes it hard to see. That's kind of what it was like. But it's like changing across my field of view, and it's identical in both eyes. So I feel like what's happening there is something screwed up on the let's see, it's the right periphery, so that would be probably the left hemisphere of my brain. Something is going on there. I don't know. We'll see. This will take I feel like it might have just ended, actually. I think we'll know by the end of this. If I'm able to upload this video, then I survived. Because this is going to take me another, half hour-ish. So, if it's a really bad stroke, then I might just die or have slurred speech or God knows what. Who knows? Who knows? Strange experience. You might notice that I'm actually not all that disturbed by this. The basic reason for that being that I've accepted my mortality. Long time ago, I've accepted my mortality. I've had some near-death experiences throughout my life. Had some some injuries where I wasn't entirely sure I was going to be able to keep whatever limb it was on. So this sort of thing, yeah, it's fine. It is what it is. Nobody lives forever. And all things considered, I'm still doing better than a lot of people. Let me see, what am I doing here? Yeah, let's go this way. So this model, it is derived from a spider designed by Robert Lang. But it is different. The base is different. It's more symmetrical, actually. I'm kind of curious if I actually even remember how to do this correctly, because it's been a while. It's probably been almost 2 years. Is that right? Jeez. Yeah, it's probably been pushing 2 years that I've actually made this, so we'll see if I remember it correctly. Another sign of how devastating my possible stroke was. If I'm able to do this, then probably fine. Yeah. So one of those adventures. So it looks like the handwriting side is going to be the outside. One of the adventures was a few years ago in March. So it was the end of spring break. I think it was Saturday. right before I was going to go back to work. I was going to go back to work on that Monday. Over the course of the week, I'd done quite a bit of work around the house, done some work on my car. Got a lot done. I think that was... I'm pretty sure that week I was... yeah, I think that was the same week. There was one day where the cops came to my door saying that a car I had sold had been involved in an accident, and I had sold it a couple months before. But the guy never actually transferred the registration over to his name. So I showed up as the last owner. Some bullshit. Fortunately, I had filed with ADOT that I had sold the vehicle, so there was a record with them that I no longer owned the vehicle, and registration was no longer actually actively under my name. But I did have to talk to the cops and the insurance company about it, and send them off to the actual guy. That was one thing that happened that week. And I think the same week, I think it was that same week, I was visited by the FBI. Because this guy that I had known for a long time, it started being a real jackass toward me, and stalking me and doing all kinds of creepy shit. He did not handle the fact that I guess broke up with him. It wasn't a romantic relationship, but it was like broke off all contact with him. He didn't handle that very well. So what he did was he decided that he was going to go to the FBI and say that I was hacking university computer systems. I don't even know how to do that. I don't know why I would do that. I didn't do that. But that's what he said. And so the FBI investigated me for this. I don't know how long the investigation went on. What the agent told me when we were talking on my porch was that his meeting with me was to just wrap things up. I'm gonna assume that was true. He seemed nice and sincere enough. Who knows? So my impression was that was kind of the end of that case. Pretty much talking to me, and then he had to go file some paperwork regarding that. And he said that he had found absolutely no evidence that I'd ever done anything, but he also strongly urged me to never actually do those things. And I agreed. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how to hack a university computer system. I don't know why I would hack a university computer system. And I have no intention of learning to or ever actually doing it. So, yes, I will heed your advice, sir. That is absolutely fine. If these things didn't happen that same week, they happened very, very closely together. I'm pretty sure they all happened the same week. The cops with the car thing might have been in April. I think that was in April. I think that was the one that was at a different time. But it was very close, because this all happened at the end of March. So, like, mid-April. It's very close in time to all this other stuff. Anyway, so yeah, the end of this week, and it was the FBI week. I'm pretty much 100% sure about that. It was the FBI week, and I did a lot of work on my car that week. Basically completely gutted the interior and yeah, replaced electrical equipment and stuff like that. The fan for the AC wasn't working, and in order to replace that, I had to pretty much rip apart the entire dashboard and interior of the car to get to that whole system and get that motor out. I did discover though that the videos that I found on YouTube showing me how to do it, they had done some extra steps that were not actually necessary. I take it they'd never done it before either, but they were braver than me and willing to try it without knowing what the hell they were doing. So still, kudos to those guys. Like, thank you. You were very, very informative, being able to watch those videos. That was very helpful. But when I started getting into it, I sort of, like, looking at things, I sort of realized, like, some of the things that they took out, I didn't actually need to take out. So I was able to save myself a little bit of effort. Yeah, so the injury. Okay. So come Saturday, the end of this week, this adventure week, I woke up, and it was before anybody else had woken up. My girlfriend lived with me, and her daughter, and I don't think my kids were home. It was just them. But I was still up before anybody, and I was just wearing a t-shirt and shorts and tennis shoes. And I went out, just grabbed my keys and went out on a dirt bike, and made a couple laps around my neighborhood down into the wash, the full loop. Probably in the neighborhood of a mile for one loop. But it goes through some pretty adventurous terrain. there's some pretty interesting ups and downs, and very soft sand and hard rocks and gravelly areas and road, and it's an interesting ride. Very steep slopes in some places. And keep in mind, I have no gear on. I have nothing. I don't even have a helmet on. I don't have anything. I don't have a cell phone with me. I have nothing. So, the first lap goes just fine. Second lap, most of the way around, and it's gone just fine. But I'm down in the wash, and I kind of hit a patch of like soft, silty sand mixed with gravel. It's really, yeah, kind of an unstable sort of material. And I get into a tank slapper where the front end just starts wobbling, and I can't control it. I'm also going ridiculously fast at this point. There's no speedometer on the bike, but on a straight and level, it can probably do, it's not a very powerful dirt bike, but it can probably do something on the order of 60, 65 miles an hour. And that was close to full throttle for a while when this started. So I want to say pretty confidently it was in the neighborhood of 45 miles an hour. Pretty good speed when this started. I tried backing off the speed a little bit, and that made it worse. So I brought the speed right back up to where it was. So I'm thinking about it. I have a little bit of time here because I'm not going down. It's just the bike doesn't seem stable, and if I have to make a turn, yeah, we're coming down, and the bike is coming down with me or on top of me or who knows what, right? But we're in a pretty sandy area here. I say we, me and the bike. there's no people. It's just me. Pretty sandy area. So I decide what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of just let off the throttle, and as it slows down a little bit into this sandy area, I'm just gonna kind of ease off the back of the bike. And hopefully the sand will be soft enough that it's not going to be too much of a problem. Well, this plan mostly worked. This plan mostly worked because my left knee is the only part of me that found a rock. Nice big rock. And that rock, let me tell you, that rock stopped me almost dead. All right. This big dude, probably 230 pounds or so, traveling somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 miles an hour. Possibly slightly more. Stopped pretty much in an instant by a single rock hitting my left knee. I didn't feel anything. Right. I felt like I stopped really quickly. I felt like I decelerated more quickly than I should have. But I didn't really feel anything. So I stand up. And my left leg feels strange. I don't really even understand what, because there's no pain, there's nothing. There's nothing. No, you know, and like, kind of out of the corner of my eye, I don't see any blood or anything. I look down, and there is a flap of skin. About the size of, you know, my fingers. It's about like this, just hanging off of my leg, just below the knee. Oh yeah, so when I back off the bike and land, like I keep my eyes on the bike, the second I'm off of it, it's stabilized. And I'm like, motherfucker, really? The second I'm off of it, it's running completely straight. And it kept going for almost another 100 feet, where it just like ran out of speed and just fell over. So then it was after this, after kind of just a little bit of amazed, sort of like, really? Watching this, watching the bike go off like that. After it fell over, that's when I got up and my leg felt strange, and I looked down and I see this big flap. It's easily this size, about 4 inches across, about 4 inches long, and just hanging right below my knee. So I'm like, well, that's not a good situation. I can't feel it. Can't feel anything. It's not bleeding. So I'm really confused why it's not bleeding. But okay, that's what it is. So I tried taking a couple steps forward. Seems to work. So okay. The motorcycle engine is still running. So I walk over to the motorcycle and try to pick it up and see if I can do anything with it. Problem is, when it fell over, it landed on the left-hand side and it snapped the clutch lever and the gear shift pedal. So I couldn't change gears. So it was in, I don't know, 4th gear, because I was going quickly. Probably in the top gear. So the rear tire's still spinning. It's just on its side, actually running still. So I can't really like pick it up because it's just gonna run away from me. And I'm injured badly enough that I'm not interested in trying to deal with that bullshit. So I shut it off and kind of looking at it. The engine's hot. So you can't you can't change gears the way you would normally do it. But there's the little lever that everything is manipulating on the actual engine block. Problem is, the engine block is really, really hot right now, so I can't do anything about that. So for the moment, it's stuck in gear. I have to go get medical attention for my knee. Did I increase this? Yeah. So I leave the bike sitting in the wash to cool down and come back and deal with later. And so, like I said, there's some elevation changes. The wash is probably where I was, probably about 200 foot lower elevation than the crest of the sort of hill that my house is on. So I have to trudge through sand and then climb a hill and then get to my house on a leg that might be broken at this point. I have no idea. But there's definitely a large open wound. And because I don't have a cell phone, I can't call anybody. Nobody knows I'm out there, so it's not like I can sit around and wait for somebody to come get me. Yeah, so I have to get myself out of this situation. It's how this gotta work. So I do. I walk my way out. and I come into the house, and at this point, my girlfriend is awake, and back in the bedroom, where really it's the best place to clean a wound, because there's a bathroom in there with all of the first aid stuff. So that's where I go. I immediately just walk into there and start cleaning up this wound. And as I'm doing this, I ask her if she can find like an urgent care or something that can see me as quick as possible. And you know, she does a fantastic job. She gets in touch with a couple places that they were busy, I think, but she finds one that was pretty close by, and they're open. They have availability right now, right away. So I'm like, awesome. I asked her if she was interested in coming, and she's a little bit freaked out by the whole situation, kind of overwhelmed by it. So she didn't really respond, but I had to go. So I was like, okay, I'm going. Yeah, this is what I should have done first. So on this leg that I now have rinsed off, and I kind of like stuffed some antibiotic cream into it and wrapped it. What did I wrap it? I think I wrapped it with like paper towels and then duct tape or something. It was a very, very janky dressing, but it was effective. Yeah, so on this leg, I drive to this urgent care. And fortunately, the car that I had fixed up over the course of the week is an automatic. My other car is a manual. I don't think I could have driven a manual car, especially not my Volkswagen. Its clutch is very, very stiff. I think I would have had some real problems. I don't think I would have been able to drive myself in that. But in the automatic, it was okay. But as I'm driving, I'm like losing feeling in my left foot. At this point, the time from the injury is probably pushing 30 minutes. So I'm growing concerned. I'm growing concerned about things here. I get into the. Oh, and I had a cane, because previously, I think maybe about a year before, I had injured my back pretty badly, and just to be able to get around, I needed a cane for that. So I had a cane on hand that I used to sort of help me, that I'd picked up from the house. So that helped. That did help. So I walk in to the urgent care with the cane, but I'm extremely composed and calm about it, and like as if nothing happened. So the lady at the desk doesn't seem to think that this is an urgent situation. So, I fill out the paperwork that they need, and sitting there waiting. And some feeling in my leg is starting to come in, but what had happened is the wound was so deep that it actually just severed all of the nerves. So the only feeling I had was above the wound. So the site of the wound and below, I had no feeling. There was no pain. So it was a very interesting sort of experience from that, like the sensations that I felt. It's like, this is interesting. This is weird. And it's starting to get bad. The way that it's feeling, and I don't know, my body is, I think, starting to sort of react, understand that there's a traumatic injury here, fairly traumatic. I'm pretty sure the leg was broken too, so my body's kind of going into an early sort of repair phase for all of this. So, starting to not feel so great as I'm sitting there waiting. And it wasn't that long of a wait. It was maybe 10 minutes or something. It wasn't bad, but still. Ah, shit. Forgot about that. I knew there was something I was forgetting. Yeah, so I'm sitting there waiting, and the nurse finally comes and calls me back. I mean, as far as, like, medical waiting in the U.S. goes, this was fast, so I'm not complaining by any means. This was amazing, So, I walk in, and she's like, well, what's wrong? You seem to be fine. Like, I sit in, go into the room and get up onto the bed thing, the whatever, the thing that you sit on. And I undo the dressing. And she's like, oh shit, and just like runs out of the room. I never saw her again. A few minutes later, a different nurse comes in. She's like, oh, I'm going to have to get a doctor to look at this. And then 2 doctors come in. And they're looking at it. And one of them is like, I'm not touching that. And the other one is thinking about it and like, yeah, I agree. For like liability purposes. Their feeling was that it was so close to the knee. It was right under the kneecap. Their feeling was that it was so close that even stitching it up, they might have to go into like the cartilage or something like that, and they were afraid that they couldn't do that. And whatever. I get it. But at the same time, I just need my knee stitched up. For real? Like, put me back together, please. It's the only reason I came here. So this third guy, this is this other nurse who's like starting to clean rocks out of it and stuff. So this third doctor comes in, and he looks at it, and he's like, oh, I can do that. And he seems really, really confident about things. And to me, this is a little bit of a red flag, because the other people were like, oh, fuck no. And he's just like, yeah, I can do this. And he kind of sounds like he might be drunk, but I don't really care, because honestly, if I had some painkillers, I would stitch that bitch up myself. I don't care. Just do what needs to get done. So, and then the lady who's cleaning out the wound, she just kind of leaves. And she says to the doctor that she's done. And I'm like, what? She didn't clean it all out. The doctor's like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, no, from my angle, I can see all the way down into this wound. And there's like 1.5 inches of depth underneath this flap that she didn't get. there's still like half a pound of gravel in there. So get her to come back, and so she's like, see, I got it all. I'm like, no, pull it back further. She's like, what? I don't want to hurt you. I'm like, no, pull it back further. See, that's not the end. She pulls it back a little bit more. She's like, oh, and cleans it out. I'm like, no, there's more. And, what? I really don't want to hurt you. I can't feel anything. Just do it. There's more. I'm like, nope, there's still further. She's like, usually people just let me do my job and don't help me like this. I'm like, well, yeah, but you walked out and said you were done when you weren't, so. Yeah, she didn't talk to me again. But she did clean it out, so thank you. Thank you for getting all of the rocks out of my leg. I appreciate that. She did, with a little bit of guidance, she did get it all out. So, thank you. I appreciate that. And then the dude, he like stabs me with some painkiller, and he goes to like put some in the bottom part, and I'm like, don't even bother, because I can't feel down there anyway. Like, it's only the top that I can feel. And he's like, well, maybe, but it's going to be the same cost either way. It's just like, oh, well, I guess in that case, just do whatever you want to do. Yeah, so there's my knee is now numb. The part that I could even feel anymore is completely numb. The rest of it was already numb. And I'm holding my leg up so that he can stitch it, sort of like up off of the surface. And as I'm doing this, it feels like the leg bone. There's a pain in the leg bone. All right, so this one goes like this. I'm stupid. This one goes like this. It's been a while since I've made this thing. So it's this one. This one goes like this. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. No, this one doesn't go like this. Oh well. This one goes like that. Yeah. Anyway, I don't remember how to make this bastard. Yeah. So my leg, the inside it feels bad. So it's at this point I'm really starting to wonder, is it broken? But I'm not paying for x-rays. And what are they going to do about it anyway? Say it is broken. What are they going to do about it? Because it's squared up enough that I can walk on it. So it's probably just a hairline or something. They're not really going to be able to do anything about that anyway. They'll cast it. But then how are you gonna treat the cut? You know, like whatever. Just don't worry about it. Right, so you drop a cast on it, and then the cut can't breathe, so it's gonna do weird shit, and you can't take care of it. You can't apply antibiotics. You can't monitor it because there's a cast over it. So that's not a great situation. So I just kind of like don't even mention it. It's like, yeah, pretty sure my leg is broken, but I'm not gonna tell you guys about that. So yeah, I get stitched up, So, and like I said, the cut, it's basically around a flap of skin like this. So it's like almost an 8 inch. It's between, kind of depending on at what point you measure it, depending on how my leg is flexed or whatever. It's between about 8 and 6 inches, the full cut around. Dude dropped 11 stitches over that whole distance. So there's like almost a full inch between each stitch. And it's crooked as all hell. There's like pieces of fat and stuff hanging off in certain places. And I'm like, well, whatever. The skin is mostly staying in place, so let's go with this. And he's like, yeah, we can take the stitches out in 7 to 14 days. Bullshit. That was not accurate. I never went back and saw them again. But I appreciate it. If you guys remember me at all, thank you. You did what I needed you to do. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, so, you know, I settle up. I think it was like $70 after insurance, which, yeah, I can, that's fine. For a stupid mistake that was absolutely 147% my fault. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So I drive my ass home. And, you know, I want to get my bike back. And I know, just from having been injured before, not in this way, but having been injured before, I know that pretty much once I stop moving, I'm not going to be able to for a while. Like, that's going to be it. So I have to go get the bike now. Or it's going to be down in the wash for like 2 weeks. Somebody's going to steal it, you know. Of course. Why wouldn't you? See a motorcycle down there? Like, yep, that's mine now. So I walk my ass back down into the wash, back to the bike. The engine is now cooled, so I'm able to get it into first gear. It's a kickstart, so that was fun. I have my cane with me. A useless leg, and a motorcycle that I can't shift. And it's a kickstart. And I'm in soft sand that I've never been able to ride slowly through this stuff before without killing the engine, you know, without stalling it at some point. But somehow, magically, on this run, I get it going, I get up on it. So it's like, because it's being kickstarted in first gear and I have no clutch lever, it starts moving immediately. Right as I kickstart it, like, yeah. I got that on the first try. I have no idea how that happened. Absolutely crazy. And wow, I've forgotten a lot of details about this bastard. Okay. I should have done this before in a previous step, but I did not. Oh well. Yeah, and then somehow just fine in first gear all the way out, all the way up to the house. Just like stop it by the door, come inside, lay down on the bed, and yeah, it was a while before I could walk after that point. And kind of like as the legs started like healing and, you know, swelling is a part of that, and, you know, whatever. And the leg is definitely actually broken. I couldn't move my leg. It was pretty much just straight for a while, for weeks. So yeah, I had to figure out ways to sleep. Pretty sure my girlfriend did not appreciate that because I just moved into the guest bedroom instead of sleeping with her in the big bed. Yeah, and it's like pissing in a jar just to minimize movement and things like that. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Great times. Great times were had with this broken ass leg. And I still wasn't sure that the leg was broken or not. Until pretty late in the healing process. Because the soft tissue swelled up quite a lot underneath the stitches and like oozed for a long time. But the after everything was healed up, or seemed to be, there was still a big ass lump. So it's like, oh, that's the bone. That's the bone. I did this wrong. Yeah, so definitely the bone broke and healed up strangely. There's this weird lump of ossification. Yeah. But, so, this happened on a Saturday. And I was supposed to go back to work on Monday. So, come Sunday, I'm like, yeah, I can't go to work. There's no way. I can't even move. So, like, I called in, and being a good boss, she didn't believe me. She's like, what? You're just trying to get out of work on Monday. What? Alright. And then, because of how bad the injury is, one day of healing is not enough. There's no way one day of healing is enough for this injury. So I call out the next day. And eventually my boss gets pissed. Well, I don't know about that, but she gets upset at me. She questions it. So it's like, well, I have pictures, but I'm not sure anybody wants to see that. She's like, I do. And you need to bring in a doctor's note. Like, okay. Her voice wasn't that deep. Alright. So I have to freaking go back to the place and get a note. Like I'm 6. Gotta go get a note from mommy that I can't go to school. Freaking such bullshit. So I sent her photographs of this thing. She's like, oh, yeah, you really did get hurt, didn't you? Yeah, bitch. I've never lied to you before. Why would I lie now? I'm your most loyal frickin' employee. What do you, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'm not taking, it's not like I'm taking any money for not working. Because the way that I was paid at the time, I didn't get any paid time off. It's like, what the hell? It's not like you're paying me. So, what incentive do I have to not come into work? I need the money. Especially since I'm, my leg is fucked up. But whatever. So, yay! Even though I fucked it up, it's still kind of cool. So I think it was actually like Thursday of that week or something. I wasn't even out a full week with this ridiculously bad injury. I was back at work with a doctor's note. And yeah, so the doctor's like, yeah, you can get the stitches out in 14 days. It was more like 40, because as you might recall, I noted when the injury happened, it didn't bleed very much. There's not a lot of blood flow to this area, so it took a long time for it to heal. Also, it's a really, really bad injury, so there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of repair work for the body to do. Yeah. So I think I started taking some of the stitches in the like really well healed up spots. Started pulling those out around maybe 25 days. But that's still well past the 14 that he was saying. And then the last of it came out, I think, almost a full 2 months later. And there were some moments, because of the color of the stuff coming out of the injury, there were some moments where I was wondering, am I going to lose this leg? Maybe. Yeah, so there's my little spider. And a story to go with it.